How you doing?
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 How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm all right.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Pretty good.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm fine. What? What? What?
I'm Chris License, and my camera girl is Shelly with Grizz as the producer. And we are our license to travel. It's been hot here, really hot, and our two ACs have been working their little hearts out. Thank goodness our friends Chuck and Carrie loaned us their portable 9,000 BTU room air conditioner. As you probably heard, air conditioners generally are power hogs, at least on startup. Unfortunately, most RVs are built with weight limitations in mind, so when engineered, they are designed to have just enough of what's needed to make things work with no real future-proofing. So things like wiring and circuit breakers are also just large enough. We've been noticing a few odd things happening over time, like we always hook up power with the pedestal breakers off to prevent sparks and arcing that could damage our cables and or equipment. And we're going to clean our connectors. Notice the inside of those. One of them's actually kind of burned. Our ACs, air conditioners, heaters, and other appliances are off as well. We do this before travel for safety. Then, when the pedestal is turned on, we turn one unit on at a time, so there's no big surge. So over the last few months, we've noticed a buzzing coming from our breaker panel, and Shelly occasionally saw the bathroom lights flicker and an occasional, for lack of a better word, ozone smell. This led me to open the panel, our breaker panel. Other than occasionally having to reset the main double pole 50 amp breaker when the pedestal was turned on, they all seemed fine. Then I touched them. Oh my gosh, hot. No, really hot. Yeah, I popped onto YouTube to see what that might mean. Dozens of videos, and hours later, after talking with some of my electrician friends, I had some idea of what to look for. First was the pedestal and our shoreline. The pedestal was cool to the touch, right where you plug it in. And no signs of arcing or burns, so we shut down the RV and I flipped the pedestal breakers off and pulled our 50 amp plug. At first, it looked fine, but something caught my eye. Notice the inside of those. One of them's actually kind of burned. Upon closer inspection, I could see that one of the 120 volt legs was badly carbon fouled, but the rubber of the plug seemed fine, so I cleaned off the carbon with a pocket knife and then shined the surface up with some emery cloth and wiped it clean with a clean cloth. This buildup seemed to have happened over quite some time. It's easy to imagine that with all the parks we've been at in various states of disrepair, and there being campers who twist, shake, and yank at all odd angles to pull their shore plugs out of the pedestals, it's possible that some of those terminals could get splayed and make an iffy connection, which could account for the carbon. The bad thing is that a connection that isn't shiny and clean can cause a drop in voltage on that leg of your inbound power. We're not going to get into the details here, just suffice it to say that unless you're a qualified electrician, you shouldn't even consider playing around with it. Should the magic smoke ever come out of the box, call an electrician. Kill all the power to the rig first. The battery switch is right up here. So all we have to do is turn it into the up position like it is, and the battery is disconnected. Your RV, if it's a 50 amp service, has two separate 120 volt lines coming into your panel. That double pole 50 amp breaker. Now, over the years as a firefighter and working some odd construction jobs, I've barely gotten some rudimentary knowledge. Yeah, enough to get me in trouble. Cleaning off the plug's prong seemed to help. Maybe it was my imagination, but the breakers, 50 amp and one tandem 20 amp, were still pretty warm.
So we're up to the main breakers coming in, the two 50 amps that are boarded together, and then we kill the power there. And I'm just going to make sure, because I want to check the end of the plug, that there hasn't been any more carboning, and it doesn't look like there has. And we'll clean this off later. But we're going to work on the...
I removed the breaker panel cover and carefully touched the insulated wire casings going to those breakers, and they seem normal.
And that takes a Phillips screw.
So, off to my closest big box store, just happened to be blue in color, and picked up two replacement breakers, exact replacement. We shut down power next morning, making sure the batteries and inverters were off as well, and opened the panel that's removed the face so as to access the breakers. Now those main wires coming in are thick and very stiff, so manipulating them is challenging.
What we worry about right now is this double and this tandem, because these are the two that tend to be getting the hottest. So we're going to, you notice all the power that's coming in into the double pole, and the tandem has got the smaller ones here. So we're going to start with the big one, and what I'm going to have to do is undo the screws to remove the wires, pull them back out of the way, undo this screw so that I can remove the main breakers off that bus, and then we'll put the new one in its place. So let's see how this works. You're going to move back to the left just a little bit.
I disconnected the wires to one set of breakers at a time and replaced that breaker. Made sure that the wire clamps, their screws, were tight, then did the same to the tandem 20 amp breaker.
And then we take this loose. Rock it back, and that's the breaker. 50 amps, so it'll match the old one. And what a lot of people do is they hook the wires up first and then put it in. So we'll give that a shot. Okay, black one in, that's one leg, that's 120 volts going to the breaker on the left side. The big bar in the back is the main bus bar. Now this one, I'm going to do the same thing too. It's as far as it goes, honey.
Will it be exposed? Okay.
What?
Being exposed?
That's the way it was before. hooks on the bottom of this, and I'll show you on the other breaker. Hook right onto that, and then these fit those two connectors there. That wire's so stiff that it's a pain. So it went in, and we've snapped it all the way into position. Now we're going to take this screw and this plate that hold it into position. This on the end of that. Okay, so the 50 amp is in. Now we're going to do the 220s, and that's this one. That was the other one that was warm. And there's two more wires down here. These are smaller wires similar to these because they're only 20 amps, and these are 50 amps. They've got the big wire coming into it. So now we'll loosen those up. The good thing is they're tight. And loose wires are the ones that usually cause fires because they vibrate, they don't make a good connection, which ramps the amperage up, which creates more heat, which causes a fire. Let's see if we've got that. This should fairly simply come out. That's one. This should just walk down and pull out. And you see the hook right there up against my shirt. That's what hooks onto that lower part there, plastic. And that pin goes onto the bus bar up there. Now neither of the pins have looked burned, so we're going to trust that that's all right. Not super tight, but it's tight, and I'll retighten it all the way once I get everything put into place. And you push down on this. Yeah. Now we're going to rock this one back in, bottom first. Try to get it to catch on the bus, on the plastic arm.
Hang on.
We're going to push it into the bus bar, and it snaps into place. You hear a nice satisfying sort of a snap. Now I'm going to double check and make sure that these are real tight. I'm going to go back and check these real quick.
Just
And I'm going to double check all the others. That's tight.
the batteries dropped.
Went outside and plugged the shoreline back into the pedestal while Shelly watched the panel for any escaping magic smoke, then flipped on the main breaker.
And Grizz is trying to be very helpful. Aren't you, baby? You're a good boy.
Went back into the RV and began flipping on breakers and batteries and solar. No smoke.
Okay, main power's on. Battery's on. Smoke.
No magic smoke.
Okay, now we're going to start powering everything up. So the next thing will be the main breaker coming in. So if we ever have to shut the house down, that's the one that we do. And we've been having a problem with this one tripping when we're hooking up power. So we're thinking maybe that was the big problem in the first place. So here we go, power on. Sounds good.
Beep.
Yeah. Now we're going to do these breakers.
That light came on.
There's one. There's two.
Everything was cool to the touch, and yeah, did I say no smoke?
So everything's working. All the ACs came on, and those are the big monster power draws.
Closed the panel, but left the door open to monitor the breakers over time. There is a lot of power being used by our ACs, and the Tandem 20 does warm a little, but they are not hot like before. There is also no buzzing or humming coming from the 50 amps as before, and we feel like we've had a successful resolution to our problem. Just FYI, some companies will replace breakers on a regular schedule because they say that they are mechanical devices which trip when enough heat builds up in the breaker, causing a piece of metal to bend and release a spring-loaded switch. Things wear out. Now, as far as things getting hot, usually when voltage decreases, the heat increases. Our rig is a little over 3 years old and has been through all kinds of torture. So we will now add another couple of items to our checklist. Number 1, take a close look at the shoreline pedestal plug every time we disconnect and closely inspect the pedestal side for signs of damage like burning and broken parts, etc. Number 2, we will monitor our breakers much more closely and replace them when needed, but we'll always try to eliminate other possibilities first. Motors and compressors can fail as well. Yeah, all your systems are surviving an earthquake every time you move. Well, this should do it for this week's video. If you like what you see, please give it a thumbs up. YouTube really does like that, and so do we. And if you'd like to see more videos about RVs and RVing, then subscribe to the channel. It's free, and it really does help us out. So if we don't see you out on the road, maybe we'll see you next video. Please, travel safe.